it is a chicken and egg sort of situation, right? You want to solve the issue of time, but the issue of time is then solved by money, right? And it's a difficult place to be. I think one of the ways that I would look at this as, if we're going to spend time on PD, let's align as educators and administrators and say, this is, what is it that you really need? Is it time? Or is it something else? What is it that the majority of my staff is really seeking this school year? And then let's work together and collaborate so that we can kind of distribute the weight of whatever it is that my teachers are feeling.
Welcome to Education Uncharted. Today we're going to examine one of the most talked about issues concerning teachers in education today, and that is mental health and teacher burnout.
It's huge, right? We're seeing teachers leaving the profession in droves. It's an exodus. And it's really important that, we have a conversation that we're, as a culture, we're having a conversation about what is happening here and how can we support our educators. There was a 2020 survey by the National Education Association, Lisa,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they found that 55% of teachers were planning to leave the profession before their time was up, right? Like before their time that they would normally retire because of burnout. Yeah. And there's so many reasons, right? We can all kind of hypothesize what might it be that's leading these teachers, so many of them, to leave the classroom. I mean, I could list 1,000 things, right? Because for every teacher, there's probably one key thing that is like the straw that broke the camel's back. One of them I know is workload. I know that when I was teaching, I had about 135 students in high school. I was the writing teacher, so I had 135 essays times 12 over the course of the year that I needed to grade. And I needed to hand grade those. I needed to give meaningful feedback that would help students improve their writing skills, improve their grammar, focus on whatever it is that we were focusing on in that piece of work. But that was just part of the job, right? Like grading 135 times 12 essays is just one tiny little piece of this huge puzzle of planning and data crunching and creating resources and vetting resources and working in PLC and
what to do when they don't get it.
Yes, what to do when your students are like not on track. And those are, again, just like the common things that we worry about, not even the more nuanced pieces that individual schools might kind of say like, hey, we're going to focus on this year, or that individual teachers might say, I need to work on this. It's just so much, right? And then all of the emotional parts that come along with it. So not only am I trying to teach students to become better readers and writers, I'm also trying to like help them grow into healthy, happy, contributing human beings, right? Because that's part of the teacher's job too. It's not just teach your subject. It's like grow little human beings and
behaviors and the attitudes towards learning and education. Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah. And that was probably another struggle for you. I'm sure that you saw students that were just not getting where they needed to go.
Oh boy. I think kids these days are a whole new beast in a good way, beast, but they're a whole new beast. I mean, it's a whole new breed of students now. The behaviors are definitely escalating. And I mean, anyone who's taught in elementary knows about elopers and evacuating your classroom due to extreme behavior situations. So elopers are the students that just decide to leave the classroom or the playground or wherever you are, or situations where things are getting so aggressive in the classroom, you have to remove the entire class because it's an unsafe situation for them. So those are extreme cases, but just the behaviors that you have to deal with on a day-to-day basis, apathy towards learning, not caring about grades, not understanding grades. And yeah, a lot of it did come from being out of school for so long that a lot of the students, when they first came back, there were students.
And you're talking about during COVID.
Yeah, during COVID.
Okay.
There were students that came back into the classroom, had never been into a classroom before. So the very first time they skipped kindergarten, they skipped first grade. And the first time they were entering into a classroom was second grade. And so they've spent their entire schooling being able to go to the bathroom whenever they want, or deciding they're hungry, so they're just going to walk to the cafeteria and go get some lunch and not understanding how to do school.
So much of your time is spent teaching kids how to do school, right? How to behave in a classroom.
Right. How to line up, how to be nice to each other. That is a huge part of it, because that impacts us too. When we are constantly dealing with negativity in the classroom and we're constantly dealing with fights and arguments, it's taking away, it's draining. It is absolutely draining when you're constantly having to redirect behaviors or tell students to get back into your seats, or no, you actually do have to do this work. And they're like, I don't care. I don't want to do it. I don't like it. Why are you even teaching this? This is too much. I can't do it all. And yeah, they can do, and having those expectations, but that's draining for you. Right. It's like fighting with your children, right? Yes, you want to discipline them. Yes, you want to direct them, but you hate it. You hate having to be in that situation.
Well, and I'm sure, because this is how I felt, that you hate it for yourself. You hate it for the kid who is going through it and basically missing out on something because they're not able to flow with the rest of the class. But then you hate it because all of these other kids who are like here and ready to learn are missing out.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. And then there are the pressures from the administration that you need to be on track, or you need to be accelerating, you need to be remediating, you need to be differentiating. Right.
Yes. There's so much. And in all fairness, with as much pressure teachers are under, administrators are under that pressure as well.
Absolutely.
So just like we need to have the data, they need to have the data. And they're proving that their little mini cities that they've created are improving and that they're growing.
So they're looking for teachers to aggregate that data to show that students are moving along, right? That they're doing what they're meant to be doing. And that trickles down. It trickles down into the classroom. And it can sometimes really feel like you're not on the same team.
Yeah. What does it look like to you to have really great administrative support?
We think about a lot of times a classroom, right? You want to make sure that both you and your students feel involved in the decision-making process, and that you can both be on board with whatever directions you're hoping to take your classroom. And I think that same modality needs to move into the administrator, teacher, what do we call it? The conversation, right? Like the way that their relationship is that we really should not be top down, right? Right? As much as we can, we should be working together to plan and organize where we're headed with our school.
Right. And that requires the administrators to see the pressures that you're under, not just feel their own pressures, but to see the pressure that teachers are under, and to see their students, not just as data points, but as little humans, right? So one of the things I know, I had an excellent administrator who not only did she have an open door policy, she was an out of her office policy, and she was in the classrooms. Now, I will say that that is intimidating for some teachers to have an administrator walking around your classroom because you feel judged. And, you do the little prep, like, everyone raise your hand. Everyone pay attention.
Right. Please
everyone is working.
The angel students for the day today.
Right.
Make me look good.
Right. But just to have them come in and to say, in full transparency, this is not for an evaluation. I just wanted to see the kids. I wanted to talk to the kids and let them know that we were all on the same team together. We actually asked our administrator, who was very data and procedurally oriented, to not walk in with her laptop, but to walk in with a coffee cup when she wasn't evaluating us. So that way we could all feel a little bit more comfortable, because I don't want to be under that stress of under that microscope all the time. We want the administrator in the classroom to see what's going on, but we don't want to have to feel like we have to perform all the time.
So you're on the same team.
Yes.
You just were setting up some signals.
Some signals.
Yes.
And then when that laptop came in, then you were like, okay, this is what the standard was. Make sure everyone can,
Right.
if she asks you a question, this is what you're going to say. No, and not that I ever did that. Never.
Not you. No, none of us ever do anything like that.
No.
But really, that is a community of support, right? Showing that I'm here for you and I'm listening to your needs, and I recognize that my presence can be stressful and I don't want it to be. Right? So many times administrators get stuck in their bubble, right? Like, this is the work I need to do. This is the work that you need to do. I'm here to make sure that the work that I think you need to do is actually happening in the way that I'm expecting it to happen. Right? So that we can work together as a team. But sometimes that communication ends up coming over as a lack of support, when really it's meant to be a support structure. So all of these pieces are leading to burnout, because we're just overloaded with stressful, mini triggering events.
Right. Or another PD that's sent down from above because they think the entire district needs this PD, when how do you know what I need? You haven't even been in my classroom. Come into my classroom and see what I need, or listen to me, ask me about what I need, because what I need is going to be different from what you need. And just like we differentiate for our students, we need to differentiate for the teachers, because what is going to cause you burnout is not necessarily what's causing me burnout. So having that community, having that support, but communicating with each other about what we actually need, versus just saying, I think you need this, or research says that you need this, or students are behind because you need this. Let me give you another solution.
There's so many reasons for teachers, the exodus, right, from teaching. There's just the amount of work. That workload is tremendous. Student behavior is part of the problem. I think also just the administrative pressures that are kind of coming down from the top and pushing teachers away from the space that they love, right? And then just overall lack of support. Lisa, you were in the classroom during the COVID-19 pandemic. And we all know that everybody in the world was kind of experiencing these mental health challenges. Maybe you can just share a little bit about your experience during that time in the classroom.
Sure.
Or out of the classroom, because you weren't even teaching in the building for a good portion of it.
Yeah, well, and I did the out of the classroom, I did the concurrent teaching, the completely remote teaching. So yeah, we did it all. And the thing was, we had the opportunity, and a lot of the teachers were talking about, we had the opportunity at that point to change and completely reform education, because this was something new. The whole world was going through something completely new and different. And I remember I was actually in kindergarten when we were told to go home. And I just remember shoving books in the kids' book bags. That's all we needed, just shove books, send them home. But we had no idea what was going on. We didn't know, are we coming back in 3 days? Are we coming back in a week? What are we doing? And the entire world was uncertain. So then when we said, okay, well, we need to continue with education. I have little kinder babies, and they still need to learn. We're not just stopping the year in March. We started talking about, well, we can really change things. We can take away all the things that were not working, and we can make it something new and something better. But that didn't happen. It was add more stuff, add more stuff. Here's another resource. Here's another technology to learn. The first time they put in that little robot camera in front of me, and I was like, wait, I need what? I need ring lights. I need all this technology. I had no idea, and I was freaking out, honestly. And I was a fully experienced teacher, but I was still freaking out because this was all new. And yes, I've been in front of cameras before. Yes, I've done Zooms and I've done meetings virtually. We had done a little bit of that. I had even, done Skypes with my students, but this was different because this was rethinking how we were doing everything. So now we had to do reading groups. We had to teach everything, which with the little babies, it's all hands-on manipulatives. Well, how are you doing hands-on manipulatives if you're not actually looking at the students and you're not adjusting and grabbing things with them? So all this came to us. We were scared. We were terrified that not just for the health reasons, but just for the educational impact, we needed help. We needed a lot of help, right? We had to learn new things. We had to try new things, and everything that we knew just had to be changed.
On top of just your everyday life being turned upside down. And you were teaching kindergartners who they couldn't sit in their seat when they were in school. How in the world would they sit in their seat when they're at home with all of the distractions?
Oh, they weren't sitting in their seats.
Yes.
No, they were sitting in tents. They were going into the bathroom. They were crawling on top of the dining room table. But we couldn't do any of the classroom management. So a lot of what teaching is, especially with the younger kids, is classroom management. But we didn't have a classroom anymore. So we started getting resources, and we started getting trainings and all these mandatory trainings and more resources. And people were throwing money at schools, which was great because finally we needed money, right? But we never quite got what we needed. What we got is more and more expectations, and nothing was taken away. So add more to the plate, add more to the plate. Here's one more strategy. Here's one more teaching tool. Here's one more technology. Update your Canvas modules, which the kids couldn't read, but update your Canvas modules. And then it was, you have to have the headers and the banners that were pretty, and you had to have elements and so
it was like engagement.
Yes.
On top of,
you'd have the colors. You had to have the buttons, adding in the buttons and making them personalized with Bitmojis. And we were creating little Bitmoji classrooms, and we were putting in even more extra stress. So now we didn't have to decorate a classroom, but we had to decorate our Bitmoji classroom, which, it was cute at first. It was fun, but then it became another task that we had to do.
Right.
And so it was over and over and over again. And it was constantly learning something new. It was constantly figuring it out. I mean, at first we couldn't say words about illnesses, and we couldn't talk about things like that, or isolation. That was one of the words that we weren't supposed to say. We weren't going to isolate. And we had to protect the mental health of the students and say, we don't want them to be afraid. But we also have our own families, our own lives, our own extended families, and our own children that we're also teaching and working and navigating through this whole change at the same time.
And then you had to go back into the classroom. You just learned all that stuff, stressed out over trying to figure out, how do I teach these kids online? And then the next school year, you were in the classroom, but some students were still coming in remotely, correct?
Actually, the way my school did it is we alternated. And so we did a gradual release back. And so we started with the kindergartners, then we went to the first and second graders. And at that time, I switched grade levels, because that's what you want to do in the middle of a pandemic, is you switch grade levels. But it was actually really great. So I was teaching third grade, so I came back in January. So we still had the half of the year we were setting up rules and procedures. But then again, we had to protect our health. So the first week we were coming back and my students were back, I wasn't allowed to come back because I was potentially exposed. So we also had to deal with that as well. So I was teaching remotely to my students who were virtual and in the classroom, and it's a lot.
Who was in the classroom?
A substitute was in the classroom.
Okay.
So there was a substitute in the classroom. I was remotely teaching to students, and let me tell you, it gets really confusing. And then we were doing A days and B days, and some kids were coming in here, and then some kids came in all 4 days and having 4 different class lists and who sat where. And we had yoga mats and we had crates with all their supplies, and everything had to change, right? So everything was brand new. And again, even if you're a technology person, you're doing things completely different. So our reading groups, you have kids that are in the classroom doing reading groups and kids at home doing reading groups, but you're not giving materials and supplies to them, so you have to do it virtually.
I had children at home. At that point in time, I was not a teacher in the classroom anymore. And I just remember thinking, there's no way that I can keep my own children on task and I'm right here with them. I can't even imagine going through all of those changes. And then for what year would it have been? The 2022 school year to come on, where now we've got to remediate. We need to accelerate learning. We need to start pushing kids to catch up, right? Like, we lost this 1.5 or 2 years of learning, and now we've got to catch up. And how are we going to do that? So just another
another layer, because again, it was putting it on the teachers to find that time to do the acceleration. You have remediation that you're naturally going to do in your classroom when the students don't understand a lesson, but what are you going to do for the students who have that learning loss? And we figure it out, and that's what it's put on the teachers. Just figure it out. You figure out a time to do it. No more extra resources, no more extra bodies, but just find some more time in time that's already so limited. But one of the things I think that was good that came out of all this is focusing on mental health and focusing on student mental health, but more importantly, teacher mental health. So let's talk about that a little bit.
One of the things that, we read a lot about teachers' mental health and what we can be doing as a society, in districts with administrators, leading this charge to support teachers' mental health. But I feel like so often we get this laundry list of reasons why teachers might be struggling, right? And it's so rare that we actually hear from the teachers. What is it that you need? What are you struggling with? What is it that's pulling you down? So digging in a little bit more, I was digging into my Ed Week files, and I found this article from 2023. So pretty recently, post-COVID, teachers are back in school. They're teaching hopefully pretty regularly. And with all of these additional expectations, the technology, the data, the acceleration blocks and the remediation and all of these things, what teachers are saying they need more than anything is just more time.
Absolutely.
And it makes sense, on so many levels, that the time thing is where so much of the struggle comes from, right? So there's this concept called time affluence. So it's basically how wealthy you are in time. How much time do you have to do the things that you need to do, right? And what we know, because we've been there before, we're watching this happen. We have friends, we have family who are continuing to be in the classroom and feel really overloaded, is that teachers are facing this ever increasing time famine. They are not wealthy in time. In fact, they're starving for more time. And there's a study by a Yale University psychologist. Her name is Laurie Santos. And it shows that this is shocking to me. It really is. That experiencing time famine in your job is as stressful and as detrimental to your mental health as being unemployed.
Oh my goodness.
It's shocking. So imagine being a teacher, walking into a classroom, feeling like you don't have time.
That's such a loss. I mean, I just think about, the loss of what are you going to do and the despair.
Yes, the anxiety of not being able to how am I going to do all of this? How can I get it all done? Right.
And it's not like they're extending the school days or they're not giving you an extra day,
No,
right? There
are no 25-hour clocks, right?
I know.
And so I think the question is like, how do we help teachers solve this time famine? There's got to be a way, right? So I think what we want to do is launch into that conversation next.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I know a lot of districts are doing is PD on mental health, which, in theory, that sounds great. But so we're going to watch, because obviously it's going to be virtual or it's going to be a PowerPoint, essentially, modules on how to be more healthy, and some strategies like that 5-finger breathing and breathing in and breathing out and just relaxing, which is great. Those strategies are amazing. I'm not putting down those strategies by any means, but we're adding another PD.
Yeah. Remember, self-care, take time for your self-care while we also have you do this PD session while you're also, trying to analyze data. Right. And differentiate for every student in your classroom and make those phone calls and be engaging.
Yep.
Right?
Absolutely. But the other thing is you get that PD and there's no actuation of it. There's no follow-up. So you've done the module, check it off the list that you've done it. But are we actually going to integrate some of those things into our daily lives, into our school culture, into our building? Are our administrators going to support that time? Are they going to support taking a breather or support using your mental health days? Calling them mental health days.
Absolutely. And I think that, when we say that teachers need to care for themselves and here are some ways that we can do that. You know what? We're having a half day and we're going to have a massage therapist come in and do chair massages.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Massages always work.
Pizza in the lunchroom. Like you don't have to pack your lunch. We have to remember that this is not what teachers are asking for. I mean, again, we're not, looking gift horse in the mouth, right? Thank you for supporting us. But if what we need is support with time, then that's where our PD should be focused, right? Like I'm so stressed. The massage is not going to bring back the time that I need to help me differentiate for my 25, 30, 35 students.
Well, because you're doing it during planning time. Right?
Exactly.
You're not going to leave the classroom. So you're going to have to use your planning time for that massage or stay after school to get that massage when I just want to go home. So what we need is that time back during that school day. I know at one of the schools I worked at was phenomenal about giving, we called it data days. But our data days were not just for collecting data. Yes, data. We did collect data. But we also got together to meet as a team. We were able to grade papers. We were able to enter grades. We were able to do the PD that's mandatory on school grounds, not during something else, where we're not sacrificing our time to do something else. And it took substitutes. So it took the team to have substitutes at the same time. And, that becomes an issue as well. Do the schools have money for that? Do the schools want to allocate their money for sub-funds? That becomes a problem.
It is a chicken and egg sort of situation, right? You want to solve the issue of time, but the issue of time is then solved by money, right? And it's a difficult place to be. I think one of the ways that I would look at this is if we're going to spend time on PD, let's align as educators and administrators and say, this is, what is it that you really need?
Ask
is it
them.
Time? Or is it, is it something else? What is it that the majority of my staff is really seeking this school year? And then let's work together and collaborate so that we can kind of distribute the weight of whatever it is that my teachers are feeling.
That's a huge part of it is the distribution of the tasks. delegating the tasks. There's so many tasks that teachers have to do during their precious time that really doesn't need to be done, like crunching data, crunching numbers.
It needs to be done, but do they need to do it?
No.
Exactly.
How about training on Excel spreadsheets to teach how to actually have that done, or invest a little bit in some of the software that is all over the place that will crunch those numbers for you so they can analyze, take a test online, have it go in automatically, and then spend that time actually analyzing the data, because data is important. But do we have to input each test grade for each student manually and then add those numbers together and find those averages? And we're spending so much time doing those menial tasks that don't need to be done.
Technology can absolutely save the day here.
Yep.
And so it really does become, it's not just I'm putting this on you as a teacher, right? Or the administration is saying this is the teacher's need, so we're going to help you all by giving you more things to do and learn and think about. Instead, it's here are some great strategies. Here are some tools that you can use to help you save time. And then let's send some of this over here, right? Like there are certain things that you might need the end result, right? You might need to have some kind of report, but you don't need to be the person that's digging in, right? And so just really, making this a team effort where you're redistributing the tasks and the effort so that everybody kind of finds a win.
I think about in terms of redistributing tasks as well, the creation of tests and quizzes, or the creation of lesson plans that the entire district is going to be using. So when you have a district of 10,000 teachers and 500 of them need that same math test, why are 500 teachers creating a math test? Why doesn't the district just distribute the math test? And then we know we can use backward design and we can plan our lessons around it. We can plan the activities. And that way the entire district is on the same page. And instead of each teacher having to do all of the work themselves.
And then you have maybe a little bit more meaningful data when you come together, if you do, as a district to talk through what you're seeing in your classroom. Because if you're all giving the same test, you can kind of say like, oh, wow, your students are, they're doing so much better on long division.
What are you doing?
What is it that you're doing in your class?
And then it's true teaching and focus on the teaching and focus on collaboration.
And in the long run, it's time saving, because if I don't have to continue to iterate because I can't figure out how to get my kids to understand long division, if I just learn from you, that's saving me time and taking a layer off of my plate.
And that is meaningful PD, focusing on exactly what we need to do.
Lisa, thanks so much for sharing a little bit about your COVID teaching experiences. I think it's so very important that we really think about how to alleviate the stresses on time for teachers, or at least dig into the reasons why our teachers are feeling so willing to move away from their passion, right? To do something different because what they're seeing just isn't working.
And adding on to that, Amanda, before we go, I want to ask the teachers, because we don't ask the teachers enough. What exactly do you need? What would you like from the classrooms, from your administrators, from your district, from your families? What would you like? Because I think that's what we need to do. Instead of everyone saying what teachers need, ask them. So I'm asking you, what do you need?
Share with us. Absolutely. Thank you so much for listening. We know that this is a really critical topic in education, and we want to continue to explore this idea. And we hope that you as listeners can help us in digging in. So please hit that subscribe button. Make sure you never miss an episode.
Yeah. And don't forget to give us a rating and leave a comment, because we want to hear from you.
So until next time, thank you. I'm Amanda.
And I'm Lisa.